call this meeting to order, Selectmen's meeting, April 23rd, 6:01. Can I have a roll call, please?
Marshall Bishop here.
Michael Wilson here.
Steve McWinney here. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to open up the public input to remind you that public input will not exceed 30 minutes, and the individual will state their name, come to the podium, and speak 5 minutes. So we'll open up public input at 6:03 right now. Okay, close public input, 6:04. Okay, got minutes approvals.
April 2nd and April 12th, you should have already received both of those, and I'm trying to remember, what was the date that needed to be amended? March 26th.
26th.
So, I don't know, any of you have the 26th? Okay, so, hand out some draft changes.
I've seen them.
Review.
I'm good. Just have to. That's 12th. I read that.
I think you
That's the second.
I think you've seen a draft on all of them, and
Right.
the 26th was were amended, and those like a week ago on that call.
I read all these. You happy with your revision? We're gonna make a motion if you want to approve them.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for March 26, 2018.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So that was the 26th as amended. And you got what, the second? I make a motion to approve the minutes of April 2nd. I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Was that it?
This one here.
The 12th, which was the sidewalk.
The sidewalk, that's the 26th. Sidewalk. See that?
It's good to me.
Make a motion.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for April 12, 2018.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There we go. More minutes for the public. I make a motion to open up to consent agenda.
I second that
All in
motion.
favor?
Aye.
Consent. motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second that motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Okay, Ms. Temple, Fire Department update.
Go ahead.
The thing, podium, is that all right? Oh. Got a couple things just to review, kind of a little status update. I think you've all received my update for the month of March. We'll kind of just review that for you. Right now, our department is at 147 calls for this time period. We ran a report actually last week for this meeting, so we're at 153 calls versus 138 calls for the same time last year. Runs fairly typical. For the month of March, we had 32 calls for service. Last year at the same time, we had 65 calls, which were attributed to the winter weather. Currently, calls for service are at 147. In the same period, they were at 135. We had 14 fire-related calls, 18 medical-related calls for that month. As I think most of you are aware, the month of March was difficult for our members as we lost Artie Kempton, one of our office safety officer in the department, and he'd been a member of our organization for 12 years. So it was kind of a difficult time. We will actually, the family is, Artie was from Rentham, Mass, where there was a funeral down that way. However, on this Sunday, April 29th, beginning at 1 o'clock, there will be a celebration of his life at the Ironworks Firehouse from 1 to 4. The public is welcome to attend. Most folks know he was part of our organization. He was also an a part-time employee at the recycling transfer station. So Artie will be missed by many, and so we'll be thinking about him on Sunday. A couple classes. Chief Hempel and Deputy Bodwin participated in an emergency vehicle operation class. The result of that class had us look at a couple of our policies concerning safe vehicle operation, and we made some adjustments, particularly in the areas of backing vehicles. Our policy had always been to provide a backer in every occasion when a vehicle is stopped and needs to backing up. The area that we worked on was having concise hand signaling so that everybody was aware and that we ran true to one form of signaling so that that issue was addressed. Backing incidents are some of the highest relatable incidents and preventable incidents that there are in the fire ground. So, where it might seem to be, something that isn't, doesn't seem so important, it really is. So, anyway, we work on that. Deputy Bodwin completed an advanced incident training class. It's an incident command class. ICS 300 is the name of it. He completed that this month. As a result of town meeting voting, we have contacted vendors and placed orders for the capital items that were on the budget, which included the SCBA replacement, the project that we've been working on, and funding since 2011. We saw the delivery of those SCBAs this last Friday, and they'll be placed in service within the next few weeks. There's a bit of a process that goes through as we put those in service. It includes a process called fit testing, where all our members will be fit to a mask to ensure that they're getting the right mask fitted to their face, and that becomes a part of a record-keeping document. And then we will have some training on on some of the new features of the breathing apparatus. The product that we did go with was a Scott product, the same product that we've had. However, in new generations, there's some new features and benefits that we want to take a look at and address and make sure everybody's on the same page. So that will be part of our training operation. That will take place on Monday, May 14th, and then following fit testing and training, those packs will be put into service in exchange with our obsolete packs. The order for our defibrillators has been placed, and we should see those arrive anytime. Our cardiac monitor defibrillator, those should be here anytime, and those will be put in service relatively quickly once they arrive. They'll afford us a little bit better. The technology in this unit will allow us to, will enhance our ability to communicate with the hospitals. Right now we send cardiac leads via Bluetooth. We'll actually be able to do it a little bit differently. You all know how wonderful the cell service is here in town, so sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge. So the new technology will overcome that, and we'll move ahead and be able to provide the hospital with a little bit better data. Mechanical issues that we've encountered, not very many. I think we talked about one of the ambulance on the daily inspection revealed a chunk of rubber was missing. That has been replaced. While preparing for forestry this season, we noticed that we had some leaking in our poly water tank. That has been repaired. Those tanks are under lifetime warranty, and the rep came out and welded it, did a plastic weld, fixed the repairs. So we have forestries that are now in service and ready to go. The UTV is in service right now. Winch and a roof and windshield have been installed, and mobile radios will be ordered for that, and that stands ready to be deployed with the forestry unit to any event. What else? We did do another project where we added some high visibility marking to the rear of our engine 3. As most of you know, you see they're called chevrons, the fluorescent yellow and red markings on the back of vehicles. Back when we bought engine 3, that wasn't a requirement, but we felt over the number of years with what we have in place now that it would enhance the visibility of that truck. So we have the challenge that we were faced with that truck was that it's diamond plate. Chevron does not go on the diamond plate. So actually we were able to customize Chevron and run it on our flat metal on the sides and across our bumpers. It's added some real pop to that truck. So we look at seeing that stand out a little bit better. So also just an update on our, we discussed at town meeting and our budget process the fact that we had written a grant for an SCBA fill station, and we kind of painted a good picture because we were investing, the town was investing in new air pack replacement, and the SCBA station would be a nice fit for that, and it kind of shows the responsibility of the town, meeting their responsibilities, and then we're asking the government for some help. I'm happy to announce that we have made it through the first part of the process, which is actually computer scoring. If you get past computer scoring, it's kind of a big hurdle, and you make it to what's called peer review, where actually peers, our folks, go and sit and read our grant applications and vote to fund or not fund. So we didn't get the Dear John letter last week, and so we're in the running moving forward. We did receive, we reached out to both senators' offices and asked for endorsement for the project, and they did oblige us and send letters of recommendation to FEMA to indicate their support for our project. And so, you know, every little bit helps, so we're hoping that we will move forward with that. That is a $56,000 project with our, we invest 5%, $3,000 or some round number there. And what that will do, that will replace a 30-year-old Cascade system that is just not making it anymore. It's outlived its usefulness, and actually we need to have a little bit better, a much better system that complies for safety reasons. This will be a closed system that will have frag protection for the bottles as they're filled. So we're hoping, awards have not been granted yet. They'll start granting awards probably in the next month, and they'll do it until they're out of money, and that typically will probably take a couple months. They'll do grant awards every Friday until everything's been awarded. So we don't know when it comes. There are a couple little telltale signs that we've learned that that are kind of giveaways from the government. When you get a little bit of a communication, there's a couple email communications and requests that they make of you before they grant you the award, and if you're aware of those, you can kind of get the idea that, oh, we're in the money. So we're waiting for those. I kind of check every day, so just for the fun of it. But
How many
anyway,
people are applying for that grant?
what's
Do you
that?
know how many,
Well, it's national granting. There are hundreds of millions of dollars available, and in many different categories. So folks fund fire engines that way. They fund, and it's based on a need basis. It's a pretty comprehensive package that you need to, and it's very competitive. We in the past in 2003 received funding for air packs, and those are 15 years, so their service life is over. So that's why we've gone to this new project. Last year, 2 years ago, we received a micro grant, which is kind of when you need a little less money, you position as a micro grant, and it's under $25,000, and we received funding for 12 sets of turnout gear to help us. So we're approaching this. We've requested vehicles in the past. Those are real tough. It's all tough, and it's highly competitive. But we retain the services of a grant guy, and we work together. I work with him, and I submit my stuff to him. He looks at it, kind of grades it, tells me what I need to improve on, and make certain corrections, and so it works out pretty well. And we found that it's a good investment. You're not guaranteed every year, but you know what? It's worth the work to
how
do
does
it.
that work? Does he get a commission off of the?
No, we pay him a flat rate, $1,000 a year, and the grants that we've been awarded have offset that, and so it's worth it. And he's caught it, because it really does get into the minutia of like numbers, and if you quote a number over here and it doesn't match down here, they catch you, because they're looking for everything. So it behooves to have somebody that knows what they're doing and say, hey man, you just got to. So we found that works really well. So that's that. The other issue I wanted to address with you before I get out of your hair, I've got a note or a letter, and I'm going to read it to you because I just want to talk about an issue and a request to kind of explain what goes on here. Right? So there was, I received an email in my inbox for a call for information on April 16th for a call on 4/15, and I'm going to take a moment to read this letter so we're all on the same page and we can have a discussion about it. So this is to the Board of Selectmen. I wanted to discuss an email I received concerning a request for response times and personnel response on a medical call that occurred on 4/15. I received an email from the town administrator suggesting I be prepared to answer questions regarding GFD's response to a call on Middle Route by the Board of Selectmen, as the department received several retones on this incident. I found this request unusual, and I was curious about what prompted the board's interest in this call, and I'd like to understand what the board's intent was to request times and the personnel that were involved. I felt at the time that there was some negative inference being probed about the delivery of the service that we provided that evening. And did the board feel that our response was too slow? I believe you all received my email response to this issue, but several points I'd like to reiterate concerning our response protocol with Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid. Number one, calls are received by dispatch, typically by 911. These calls are routed and processed for toning out. Once toned, a 5 to 7 minute period is given for units to sign on the air. If the unit fails to acknowledge their response, a second tone, or what's called a retone, is activated. Number three, if after a 3 to 4 minute window a unit fails to sign on, a second retone is activated along with a mutual aid ambulance. During this time, a department will continue to be retoned every 3 to 4 minutes until an officer of the department contacts dispatch and asks to discontinue the retones. Number 5, Gilmanton is not staffed by full-time personnel after 7 p.m. We rely on call personnel response to handle after-hours calls. Evening retones can be frequent, as 5 to 7 minute lead time to get folks out of bed, dressed, and responding to the station is not a lot of time. At Gilmanton Fire, we use a response tool called I Am Responding. This tool notifies all members who are responding to an incident. In most cases, an officer will sign on to Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid and respond to Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid as responding after they note the responding parties and advise Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid to discontinue the retones so as to not start our neighbors. The majority of our call personnel travel many miles before they reach our stations. The weather on the night of 4/15 played a major role in our department's response time. As I received the call, I got up, got dressed, checked our I Am Responding app, and ventured outside to respond. Conditions were rainy and icy. I noticed that my command car was significantly iced up and I would be significantly delayed taking time to clean it off. I jumped in my personal vehicle as a family member had used it earlier in the evening and the icing was not as significant. My personal truck is not equipped with a radio, so I was unable to sign on responding and advise Lakes Region not to retone us. I arrived at the Ironworks station where I joined the crew and we responded in 9 Ambulance 1. At that time, I advised Lakes Region that we were responding and that Belmont could be canceled. Units arrived on the scene and the call was handled without incident. Our department works very hard to answer our calls in the most expedient and responsible manner possible while keeping the safety of our personnel a priority. My commitment to our personnel and our patients is to provide a safe and incident-free call from start to finish. And we look forward to providing the best service we can for our citizens, yours and Public Safety Chief Humphrey. So I wanted to make you aware of that because our staff works really hard to respond. And we need to remember that we have travel time to get to the stations. Typically when an officer signs on, like I indicated, you usually can sign on within 5 to 7 minutes or after the first retone and advise them not to start an ambulance. That evening, simply because I didn't have a radio with me in my truck, we got a retone and Belmont was started. However, travel is difficult and you do the best you can. So, you know, when I come to work in the morning and I find an email inquiry like that, you know, it just sparks me a little bit, and so I'm just, you know, I was curious as to if you had received a complaint from one of our customers, or there was another issue that I could help you understand with our responses.
Well, it was only 21 minutes, right?
Sure.
You were from the first call to that's
First call to
first call to being on scene. So your first email back answered it all, anyways.
Okay.
That wasn't.
Well, I guess I didn't know. I was curious, and like I mentioned, why there was a question about it, and that's all. I mean,
Your email answered it.
Okay.
You laid it right out, and it was 21 minutes.
Yep.
It was 21 minutes from you getting a call to being on Middle Route with the ambulance,
right,
with 5 people.
Which is, you know, a little bit, you know, it took a little bit longer than I'd like, but it is what it is. So.
Are you in contact with the police when they're doing this?
No.
Not at all?
No, our relationship with the police is great. The police are not obligated to come to medical calls. I guess what we have to understand is, it's kind of two-sided. I consider it a bonus when the police arrive on our medical scenes. They're under no obligation. When we have a medical call, their fire department scenes, they're under my management. When the PD arrives at a scene, they're very helpful. They do what they can do. They're always willing to lend a hand, and we appreciate it. But they are under no obligation, nor do I expect. My expectation is then, where are the cops? Why didn't they arrive? Now, there are other calls where we will, if it's what could be construed as, involves an incident where we have a violent issue, we have a domestic situation, a motor vehicle accident, they're going to get dispatched by Belknap County, usually typically right when we do, or we're going to get on the air and say, hey, start my PD unit, and then we'll communicate. We don't communicate directly with the PD, nor with Belknap County. We contact our dispatch, and they contact Belknap County, and we talk that way. There are many calls where, the PD are there, they need to be there, and they do their thing, and we assist them, they assist us. It's a great deal. But my expectation was not to see them on a rainy, icy night where nobody should really be traveling, and there really was no need for them, because really what they were going to do is come out and go, hey, you guys set? Yep, I'm set, go back. You know what I mean? That is how, when the police are needed, and or, the police will show up at a call if they're out patrolling and they happen to be in the area, they'll swing by. And so it works out well. We appreciate what they do for us, but they're not obligated.
Chair, I'd just like to, interrupt something. Chief, I have no doubts in my mind, but what we have always been trying to do here is if we get a telephone call or an email or, anything that says, what happened? I said, well, let's ask the chief.
I'm happy to answer those questions. And really, the tenor of my note was to say, this is kind of how it plays out. And, none of us really like retones, but it's reality. I mean, our stations are 7-8 miles apart. Our responders are that much, farther. It takes time. I mean, maybe back in the old days, I could have been out the door in 2 minutes, but it don't happen anymore. I'll tell you that. It takes a little bit of time to get going. And our iron responding application has helped out, because now, as folks kind of roll out of bed, look at their cell phone, they can hit it and they can see, all right, I got Dylan coming, I have Johnny coming, I have Brian coming, I have these guys, boom, boom, boom. So you do the math in your head, but it's going to take a little time. Or you hit I'm responding and everybody's out and nobody's around. So, in that case, we have protocols set up where we will ask for help. We'll get somebody else started if we feel like we, have one guy that's, on the limb, and we'll get some help. But it's just a matter of juggling those things and kind of managing the call, and our people do a pretty good job at it.
And you do a good job, because I personally have experience with you and the PD, that even that my sister-in-law was
Sure.
here. And both the PD and you were here ASAP.
Yeah.
I can't complain with that.
No, I'm
It wasn't
happy.
about you. It was just having something that, this is not happening.
Sure. No, I think we have good agencies. We work well together, and we'll continue to do so.
What is I Am Responding?
I Am Responding is a computer app, so it's a subscription service that we sign on to. We pay an annual fee, and it's cell phone based and it's web based. So in each of our stations we have a monitor screen. Or typically it's a computer screen or your phone screen, a phone app or a computer app. We've made it so that we have a monitor that is dedicated to I Am Responding in each station, so that when so essentially when a tone goes out, our pager goes off, which is our prime service, from Lakes Region, and then we have our I Am Responding, which hits the tone, and then you can actually you can actually signal that you're responding. So I'll roll out of bed, I'll look at I am responding, I'll hit I am responding, now my name pops up in the field. So now, in the station, or on everybody's phone, I look up on the screen, I run in the station, I go, who do I got coming? I know I got people in Middle Route, I know I got, you know, people coming from different areas of town. I can go, all right, I got 4 guys coming, I'm gonna wait for them. Or, I got nobody coming, I better do something. So, that's how it works very well. So it gives us the opportunity, because of our geography, sometimes you might get ramped up and, you know, a guy might miss the truck by like a minute or 30 seconds. If I only waited another minute, I'd have 2 more guys, you know, and if I know they're coming, I'm going to wait that because now I got a bigger crew. In the past, it would be like, because it seems like an eternity. Minutes seem like hours when you're waiting for people. But if you know they're coming, you're stoked, and then you can make different plans for how you're going to attack it. So we've had it now for probably 4 years, and we found that it's, and more and more departments are, you know, particularly in our neck of the woods, rural departments, call departments are using that tool because everybody's got a cell phone, and everybody can just push a button. And now I know I've got 5 guys coming, or I got nobody coming. I mean, it's a pretty good, as a department head, it's a good feeling to roll over, hit I am responding, you know you got 4 or 5 guys going. And, okay, we're good, you know, go back to bed, or go, or...
Does that bypass, like, dispatch and all that? Or
No, dispatch is actually tied into it, but they can't see who's coming, and they don't rely on it. But they could actually pull up the screen to see, but they don't. Their biggest thing, and we appreciate it and want it that way, is not to say, "Oh, Gilligan's got 4 guys coming, so we're not going to retone." I can see it. They're not going to do that. They're going to follow their protocol to retone regardless until I go, "Hey," or one of the officers says, "Hey, hold the retones." Okay, and then
so they don't go by the I am responding. They go by the basic.
They go by exactly. They go by me or our officers that communicate with them, and because one of the areas that we work on is that, and that there can be some confusion. We need to have 2 responders to have a licensed ambulance. So just because you got 1 guy doesn't make an ambulance. So we ensure that, you know, in order to run the ambulance, there are 2 people now. Now, as long as they're communicating, and I have a driver that comes out of the corners, and he knows that my guy's coming out of the ironworks, well, then he can go and start care. But we never start an ambulance, you know, driver only, because you don't want to end up at a home with 1 person. Not a good deal. So.
And just to back up just a little bit, the scuba stuff. What do you do with the old stuff?
That stuff is obsolete. Thanks for asking that question. It's up to the purview of you guys. Typically, there's really no trade-in value to it. You usually would go back to the vendor that sold it to us, and honestly, what they do is they palletize it and they send it south. It's not serviceable in this country. No, they send it down to like, when I say south, they send it literally containers down to, you know, the Caribbean or Dominican Republic, places that don't have, you know, NFPA requirements, but they need stuff. So there really is no monetary value, but, you know, they'll come and pick up the stuff. And we've got maybe a couple bottles that are still okay, but mostly everything's done. It's served as well. What's that?
Tanks are all dated anyway.
Yeah, tanks are all dated, hydro, and once they're out of hydro, they're done for this period. Yeah.
And then just the poly tanks. So those are the portable ones.
No, yeah. The poly tank. We have actually in all our fire trucks now. They're all poly tanks. There's no steel tanks out there anymore.
They're the ones you set up and reservoir.
No, they're actually what holds the water in the fire truck. They're made of poly now. They're no longer made of galvanized or metal or whatever. It's all poly stuff, and they're all lifetime warranty. What I'm referring to on our forestry, we have 200-gallon, 150-gallon tanks, skid tank units, and that sit with the fire pump. That particular tank goes in and out of our forestry every year. And when we were going to put it back in service this year, we noticed there was a leak in one of the joints, that tank is, I don't know, pushing 20 years old, something like that. But they are lifetime, and he comes up and welds with plastic. It's kind of cool, you know, and fixes it, and we're back in business. So, and to that note, we did have, I don't know if you saw it in my notes, our engine 3, which is 2,500 gallons, we just had the poly tank rebuilt in that, and that was a tank from 203. The wonderful New Hampshire roads destroyed that tank. We found that we discovered a very, very small leak in it out of one of the lines that was running through the tank, sits in a circular collar, runs through, and we found a very small leak. We couldn't figure out how it happened. So we had the tank looked at, and lo and behold, all the baffles had blown out of the tank, and some friction had rubbed a small hole in that place. But they ended up taking the tank out and sending it to Indy, rebuilding the whole thing and put it back in. So we got a brand new tank.
That's
essentially.
plastic tank also?
Plastic tank also, yeah. Yep. So mechanically, we're in good shape. The other question I wanted to ask the board for you to think about, and I'll send you a follow-up email, is the disposition of our engine 2, which we've taken out of service. In the past, we moved those vehicles to White Farm for auction, and/or tried to put them on the secondary market. I don't know what you would like me to do about that. I can send you an email and you can have a discussion about it. How you'd like to what's that?
What's it worth?
I have no idea, really. I mean, it's a 1987. There is some value. For me, I think it might be worth trying to put it on a used fire truck market before it goes to White Farm. White Farm, you'll get nothing for it, but we'll be able to dispose of it ultimately, but nothing ventured. If we don't, we might as well try to throw it out there, because not only to maybe a rural department, but possibility of a collector grabbing it. I mean, it runs and whatnot. But
I've seen it at Ritchie Brothers auction too.
yeah, right. Yep, exactly. So that might be another.
People buy them just to be cool.
People just find to be cool. Yep. But we need to do something about it. So if you wanted to discuss that, or just have me go ahead and research that, I'd be happy to do that.
That would be
See
cool.
if we can get that done.
Research and find out what it's worth. I mean,
Right.
if we can get money for it, there's no sense in just scrapping it.
Sure.
It's $1,000, right?
Right. Yeah. I think the last truck brought $1,500, $2,000, and we get a piece of that. So yeah, it's not.
Are they worth more than that in scrap metal?
Well, that's what they did with engine 1. They cut it out. Yeah. So
You need big too.
yeah. So.
Yeah, that would be cool if you could do that.
I guess one of the last pieces I wanted to talk about really quickly was, I think the health department, the health officer position, which I've kind of assumed by default, I guess, lately. Heidi and I have had a conversation about the amount of work that goes into that job, and the fact that hoping that when a building inspector is hired, that becomes part of his responsibility. I mean, I'm happy to help out. There appears to be a bit of work that goes on to it, and a bit of, some interesting stuff that goes with it. And I prefer, if somebody could do it, that they would be assigned that position. And I don't want to sound like a pain, but it was not part of my initial job description, and in my, when I took on the job. I think I've got a couple times through different administrations. Town administrators had it in the past, and then it went to me. Then another town administrator took it over, and then I kind of by default I offered to help out, which I had no problem doing that. But going forward, there's a lot of work that goes into that position. I think also the board there are some other things that the board needs to look at regarding that position and the protection of that position, regarding liability for that position, and the decisions that she has to make is something that needs to be looked at. The various, we do not have a lot of public health ordinances. Some towns have taken the bull by the horns, created a bunch of them, and a lot of towns don't do anything about them. And then you have folks that come in, are making, legitimate complaints, But there's really not a lot to fall back on if we don't have anything in place for that stuff. It's very difficult to, march onto somebody's property and have them comply, because if it's not a threat to public health and safety, then really, it's really a private nuisance. And 9 times out of 10, that's what a lot of these issues are. When you have folks talking about folks that have hoarding issues and whatnot, we really have no ordinances. And the only way that we can approach their land or go on their property is with an administrative warrant, which we need to have. When we write an administrative warrant, we need to have some basis for, for making that claim.
So that's something you want to do, is write up some ordinances?
I do not want to write up any ordinances. I'm just passing that
I
on.
didn't know.
No, thank you.
Volunteer.
The septic piece is a little bit easier. It's a little bit more cut and dry in terms of dealing with DES, and there's a process of letters of deficiency, and that the health inspector can do, and to help somebody get through that issue. But there's a lot of nuances. There's a lot of stuff that I've kind of learned over time here, and I think it needs some time to maybe discuss a little bit about how to go about forming some of that stuff.
Is that a position that's funded right now, or
It is not funded. Typically, it's a 3-year appointment. The term is 3 years, and then it's renewable or whatever. Typically there is the health inspector and then a deputy health inspector. The health inspector works with the Board of Selectmen. They act as part of that board, with the health inspector kind of being the executive oversight of that board, and communicates, and along with the health inspector and then the Board of Selectmen working with their ordinances, come up to the conclusions of what they need to do. But that's the other issue that many towns struggle with, is funding that position, rolling into a salary, stipend, hourly. It's a mixed bag of stuff. One of the interesting things about the health inspector position is that there is no requirement. There's no educational requirement. There's no background requirement. Anyone can be appointed a health officer. So it can be an interesting situation when you have folks that feel like they have legitimate complaints, and to them they are, and you really can't do anything about it, and you kind of have to go back. You end up playing tennis with folks to try to explain to them that your hands are tied. There's really not a lot you can do, and you kind of feel for them, but our state is pretty reasonable when it comes to letting folks manage their property the way they want to manage it. Unless there's a direct threat, i.e. vehicles that are leaking gas or fuel leaks or septic leaks, onto another person's property, there's not a lot of wiggle room. The city of Berlin, because of their problems over the years with large tenant buildings and fires and they've created quite a comprehensive list of ordinances, and they're managed. So, but again, there aren't a lot of cities and towns that have them. So, it's an interesting situation.
Well, Chief, but to answer this, would you be willing to sit and kind of just make up a job description for us?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and there's some pretty comprehensive material. I'll give you some stuff that I pulled off that you can have that might guide you in some of those decisions. I don't think for instance, I don't think we've adopted any liability coverage for the health officer, so, or any of the town employees regarding some of that stuff. But these are some pretty worthwhile docs, and I'll pass on, and you can. This is the role of the health officer in the community. These are the laws regarding the appointment and authority of local health officials, and then this is called the public health nuisance guidance document. So it kind of spells quite a bit of stuff out. So, and I'd be happy to work with the board in, developing anything you need on that.
So we'll talk about it in 3 years.
What's that?
It's a 3-year thing, so we'll talk about it in 3 years.
Yeah.
Currently, is there any compensation for when you get called out to those? I mean, are we
No.
paying you separately?
No.
So we need to look at it
No.
as part of the budget.
No, I think we had that discussion a couple of years ago where, you know, what to do about funding that position, a health officer's position, and, you know, it was one of those things that you don't really think about until you start doing a lot of the work for anybody, you know. But there is some time and there's some responsibility involved in it. So, I mean, I would say that the next person that assumes that role probably there should be something. And I have not polled any other towns, I have no idea.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great night.
See you in 3 years.
Thanks.
He wants the job. Picking up on that? Think he wants the job?
I think it was passed the buck.
I didn't get that.
No.
Board appointments and resignations. We have a resignation that we need to accept. And thank you for his service from John Wesson. How long was he on?
I, do you want me to answer that? Several years.
Yep, so I make a motion to accept John Wesson's resignation from the planning board. I have a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We also have a resignation from, I'll read it. It is with regret that I tender my resignation as Economic Development Committee, effective immediately, Amy Russell. So I make a motion that we accept Amy Russell's resignation. Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have an appointment that we have for our treasurer, and I would like to table this for tonight. And I'd like for you, please, Heidi, to ask Mr. Waring to come in. I'd like to, you want to talk to the treasurer?
Sure.
Yeah. Martin, want to talk to the treasurer? Could you ask him to please come in? We have a reappointment for, my name is Sue Christie, and I was appointed as an alternate trustee for the Gilmanton Corners Public Library with my appointment ending in March of 2018. I'm asking to be reappointed to this position, and I apologize for being late. I make a motion that we appoint Sue Christie to the alternate trustee for the Gilmanton Corners Library. Do I have a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Just me?
No, okay.
No, it's all-
Bottom.
she's not first.
Bottom here? Yep. No, the conservation is already on. The conservation? This is a reappointment?
No, this is a new person.
And this is,
She is,
I mean, they're aware of
Do we have anybody else applying, or is this the only one?
No, whenever I get to my shoulder to you.
You don't have any yet
This is the only one I have
for conservation?
for conservation, correct?
And she's looking to be just on the conservation,
Right, a full member.
full member.
I got vacancies, so.
Yep, all right. I make a motion to appoint Jennifer Baker to the conservation full board member. Do I have a second?
I second that.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? An appointment for Marty Martindale to be on the planning board. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve it.
I need to recuse myself if I could, please.
We have a motion to appoint Marty Martindale to the planning board.
We got a second?
I didn't make the
I
motion.
made a motion.
No second for me, and he recused himself. No reappointment.
Do we have, how many people do we have that are returning planning board members right now?
Returning,
Or been on the planning board before? I know we've appointed a couple new ones.
he's still, I don't know, I mean, returning from what?
Meaning continuing from previous planning board. I mean, I know we
You know,
appointed 3 now.
Yeah.
How many, we still have 4 that are previous, that have been on the board before, or still on the board?
I know we're full. We need one more, right? One more full member. So,
Would you not want to have someone that was previously on the board on here, that knows the ins and outs?
What we got is way different than that. Mr. Martindale sets until he's replaced.
Okay.
Okay. Did I get them all?
Because, Wayne only was the Lakes Region Planning Commission
Years.
and he is no longer sitting on the planning board, so
Yep, that was, yeah, it's the town planner, the town,
Lakes Region Planning.
Lakes Region Planning Commission. I make a motion to, appoint Gary Anderson to the Lakes Region Planning. Do I have a second?
I second that.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. He's excited about that. Anything else?
No, you tabled the deputy.
Yep. Good. And I'm gonna ask him to come and
Yes.
talk to us, please.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Old business. Wilson Shapiro deed.
Yes, so this was for the warrant article that was passed by town meeting, and they have, their attorney prepared the deed, and all of the supporting documentation has gone through, our attorney as well as our assessor, confirming that everything is in place. So it's for you for signature and vote with the deed, and then, the DRA form CD 57, which is just the standard form has to be filed, even though there were no
Right.
stamps, because there's no money being changed hands. Once this has gone through, I believe we will need to have, the property owners do a voluntary bond merger just to continue bleeding tight,
Right.
that won't go through the laws.
Right.
This will be the final step for the board.
Good, I'm glad they got it. They did exactly what our attorney said,
Yeah, everything.
and they won by a lot.
Yes, they did.
sign?
There's signatures and I also need a motion.
All right, that's deeded to them.
There's, some fairly specific countries.
Okay. For affirmative vote of the voters of the town of Gilmanton on March 13, 2018, I move to issue a quitclaim deed to Virginia Shapiro and Graham K. Wilson, meaning and intending to convey the premises described as Tract 2 as deeded to the town of Gilmanton by tax collector's deed dated December 17, 1955, recorded at Book 377, page 218, at the Belknap County Register of Deeds. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I don't think I could have memorized that.
So the need of the all three of you signed, and then the second page, the DRA form, it was just the chairman's sign.
This one also? This is just for me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It has all this on it.
Does it have all of them, or does it have witnesses? Oh, I'm sorry, I should be, yes, all three.
What can I do here?
Ms. Reedman?
Well, I'm gonna have to get over, good thing.
Yep, I'm glad of that. I just couldn't do this without this. Okay. The LRPC, I can get renewal.
Yes, so the energy aggregate that we joined last year with the Planning Commission, that needs to be updated every year, so this is the
That
memorandum.
what Mike did last year when he went around all the buildings. Was that part of that?
No, this is just, we provide them a list of the uses that we are,
Of what we have?
Of what we have, and then they shop it out, basically the actual, providing the electricity. We still get our bills, the regular companies, but we get a better rate. So, this would just be updating the memorandum of understanding, which basically just says that we agreed to let them shop out. It's not actually an agreement to an actual contract at this point. So there's some fairly specific language for the updated.
Okay. And what did Mike do that actually saved us money with electrical? He went around to all the buildings. He did a bunch of stuff. Spent almost like a half a day. What was that?
Language,
Yeah.
I would have to look
Remember
at
that?
Remember the audit?
Hmm?
Oh, was that an energy audit?
Was he a part of the audit?
Maybe, was he? It ended up saving us money because he went and did that.
I have to look back to see.
That would be cool if we could do that, or if we can do it again. Okay. I move to accept and approve the memorandum of understanding between Lakes Region Planning Commission and the town of Gilmanton to obtain competitive bidding on electricity supply and to assign town administrator Heidi Duvall as a contact person to work directly with LRPC on the tasks outlined within the MOU. Do I have a second?
I second that.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
So this one, I would just have to chairman.
Is that just electric or is that also gas too?
It's just electric at this point. They are looking into other aggregates, now that we've
I know
been this one for.
We were looking at trying to bulk buy all the gas for all the places, right?
Right, I haven't actually dealt with one of the most recent,
I know you were
early
not
stages,
before.
as they say,
So
so.
right now, all our propane
Is about the one.
is through Eastern.
Good.
And we tried to at least consolidate as much as we could, before contracts.
Okay, Board of Selectmen's rules of procedure.
So I actually just gave you a new, draft that, Selectman Wilson had worked on. It's actually on the same template that I'm working on in the background, so if the board would like, I can try to marry those two and get them to you for review.
There's one more I'd like to add to that I didn't get a chance to add on.
All right.
I'd like to make sure we get the building open 10 to 15 minutes before the meeting so people can come and actually get in here and not, be seen outside if possible.
Do you know what section that is off the top of your head?
It's not in here, it's one I'd like to try to add in.
Right, we wanted, okay, so you don't have a location yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
And all I did is I highlighted anything that I changed in red, and then anything I added was red and yellow, so
Yes,
people know what they're looking at.
This is you?
Yep.
This is yours?
That's mine.
You wanna have, opening the doors up 15 minutes prior?
10 to 15 minutes prior, that way people aren't standing outside in the wintertime in the cold, they can come up here and, that way we come up at 6 o'clock when people are already in here, sort of delaying.
Just have a quick question.
Yeah.
My only concern with that would be not a problem opening the building as long as someone's gonna be back here.
Mhm.
This room lacks security as it is for confidentiality purposes
Sure.
for general publics.
Okay.
So that would be a concern that someone's present with the public.
Okay. And we're gonna have security cameras in here too, right?
You tell me, I need to be updated, that's why I'm here.
Steve, we're gonna have, I believe Steve was talking,
Yeah,
we're gonna have the
yeah.
cameras up here, so maybe that will help eliminate some of that need, but I have no problem being in here 10 minutes before people. So,
I know sometimes, especially in the season, when it's winter and it's we're stressed trying to get all the information
Sure.
prepared for your meetings.
Yep.
So that was just my concern.
okay.
Take a peek at them. Now, was this from Allenstown?
Yeah. And there was a couple I found, I think one of the other ones was from another.
So this doesn't consist of just Allenstown, this is something that you put together?
No, so the ones in yellow and red are the ones that I typed up. Some of the ones like this electronic one was I talked about at the training I went to. The electronic meetings.
How was it?
Pretty good.
Mm.
Probably go again. No more letting those things. And then other ones, like I had questions on community or select boards. We now have a planning board that's voted, so that might need to be changed. Might not need to be changed, but I highlighted anything I saw.
What page you on?
It's page 8. Page 7, our current meeting minutes are people allowed to talk for 5 minutes, not 3. So I just changed those, but they can be changed back to the 3 if needs be.
We don't have the thing about that with the, like if you're talking about the planning boards, is that?
Yep.
It isn't
It's an elected position.
it's an elected position when all of them are elected, when every 7
Yeah.
members.
But I'm saying we'll need to change that once that happens.
Oh, I gotcha.
Can I also have a question?
Sure.
In this, I haven't read the full document, so you might know better than I. When the public becomes unruly in reference to going off topic or anything, is there something in here that you have a protocol for, because NHMA does kind of guide the board towards a resolution for that.
I believe we have selectmen's public input rules and regulations already that state, if they're getting unruly, then, put in an order. If they don't stop, then, at the third time, we can have them removed.
Right, so my only concern with that is actually having someone removed. Other boards through NHMA have said basically the board has recessed until the public can get themselves in order.
Yep.
And that's the only thing, you don't want to basically remove public from your meeting.
Yep.
It doesn't bode well, so that would just be another caveat.
That makes perfect sense, yep. I think we should definitely add
That
something
way-
like that.
I'm sorry.
I think we should definitely add that in there. If we're having that, we can recess and come back.
Well, definitely, because if Chairman McQueen or someone else takes over for a meeting, depending on who's absent, sometimes it gets really uncomfortable not knowing when to shut it down and to say, because you don't want to hamper free speech. However, it gets to a level that you feel like you don't have it out sometimes, and being able to say, okay, we're just going to recess gives the board a chance to
Well, the chairman can say we're moving on, you know,
They
and
can,
stop that. They
whether
don't-
that's respected or not is the,
Yeah.
would be one of these.
Well, we'll take a peek at it.